The Shepnaz podcast begins now.
You're listening to the Shepnaz podcast, a podcast at Shepherd Church. Everything we do here is to connect our community in a meaningful relationship with Christ, and we're expecting great things. My name is Joey. I'm the host of this podcast, and today we have two guests. Both are either currently or have been the lead pastor here at Shepherd Church. You may recognize Pastor Rob Paul, but you may also recognize Pastor Sam Barber.
Dr. Sam Barber.
The Reverend Doctor.
Most High Reverend Doctor.
Sam Barber in the chair. Sam Barber is now the district superintendent here of South Central Ohio in the Church of Nazarene, and he is here to hang out with us in his former office, and we're pretty excited about it. So, guys, how's it going?
Studio 1A. That's where we are.
This office has never looked cooler than it does right now. It certainly never looked this cool when I inhabited it.
Oh,
Very nice.
While you're here now, and everything just feels right again.
You know what? Fun fact. Before I became the pastor here, one of the staff members at this church was a photographer. We came from Southern Ohio to have our photographs made in this office.
Really?
And something like 10 years later, when I became pastor, this was the office.
Wow.
And I was
Interesting.
cleaning out that closet and found one of our negatives from our photo shoot.
That's hilarious. There might still be one in there.
But it's dangerous walking in that closet right now.
It is. There's things in there. I only go in there once a month.
Oh, man.
Crazy.
So, Sam, tell us a little bit about, you were the pastor here. Would you just reflect just briefly on that experience? When was that? And what was your experience like?
We left in 2014, and we were here almost 8 years, I think, prior to that. Mm-hmm. It was a great experience for me. I had pastored a strong church in Troy, Ohio, but had never had the kind of ministry that a church like this had. So much more staff, much more community outreach, much more with the school and the preschool and the after-school care, all that kind of stuff. So it was this opportunity for me to experience church kind of at a different level than I had known it before. And I'm not sure, sincerely, I think the church did okay, but I know that I certainly grew a lot personally and theologically, all those ways that you hope you will improve in your life. I feel like Shepherd Church was a key part of that early on. That was great.
And then you moved to Kansas City, right? And you were the pastor at, was it Central Church? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not technically Kansas City, but everything, the metro, they kind of call Kansas City. Yeah.
Just like we associate with Columbus, even though.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. And you have been the district superintendent here for, is it just about a year?
Just over a year. Yeah, so I have all the answers now. If you have any questions, please.
You've gone through all the training. There's nothing left to know.
There's no more training for sure. Except get out there and see how it goes, right?
Oh, man. So let's talk about maybe your first year as your district superintendent. Everything that happened was what you expected to happen, and right?
You're living the dream.
Yeah. In all sincerity, it's been really good.
Yeah.
I think I was on record here for sure multiple times and everywhere I've ever been of saying I never would want to do that job. Who would ever want to do that job?
I'm on record for that as well.
Be careful. It used to seem to me like a very awful job. And so I just was kind of closed off to it. And it's amazing what the Lord can do when he decides to change your heart, which he did. And we've been, my wife and I, Jill, we have been just a little bit surprised at how much it feels right and feels like something we enjoy. We love the church and we love pastors. Yeah. And so I guess it makes sense, but it was still never something I was hoping for, really. I think the local church is the place. That's where everything happens. And being a local church pastor, in my opinion, is the best thing, especially of a church like this. And Rob, I know you would agree.
This is a great church.
It's the best. So, yeah. But we've enjoyed it. And no, everything did not go. My first week, I was sitting in the parking lot at Home Depot trying to buy something for the house that we were not yet in, but getting ready to go in. And my phone rang. And it was the biggest issue I've ever dealt with in ministry. And I've been on the job like 30 minutes. I'm like, well, here's what you do. And but God helps you.
Yeah.
And he did help us, and it turned out okay.
Yeah.
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 So can you talk a little bit about the status of the district, like what's going on, and kind of where we actually on the podcast a few weeks ago used your report from District Assembly as a couple of episodes, or maybe just one long episode. I don't say that because it was long. I said because we're supposed to be short episodes.
But it was long. A little about 10 minutes too long.
It's
I wish
okay.
I'd have trimmed it.
That's
That
okay.
was good.
No, it was really good. We talk a little bit about the what's going on in the district. Maybe what are some things that you're hoping for in the near future here.
Sure. I always wish when I assume a new position that I just already have everything figured out and I know everything, but I never do. In fact, it takes me a while just to get involved and sort of absorb, I think is a good word, like the culture and what people are thinking about, and kind of get oriented. Like, where are we? What do we need to do? And our district advisory board has been very patient. But in our May meeting, I was able to articulate what I think is a vision for us that is going to be compelling, and I think it's going to direct us. It's already directing our approach to how we're going to run the office and look out across the year. So from that standpoint, I'm very excited, because this is the year sort of to gain traction on the things that we believe God's asking us to do. As a whole, I think the district is doing very well. I found, healthy churches, every district has situations that you have to deal with, and we do too. But for the most part, I go around and I find pastors who are working hard. I find people who love their church. They love it. They will do anything to see it go forward. I find really terrific pastors. That's one of the great compliments I can pay to this district is terrific leaders all over the place. So I'm encouraged, and I'm hopeful that as we streamline kind of how we do business and what's important to us, I really think we're going to see some good days ahead.
Yeah. Great.
Sam, how many churches do we have on the district?
Oh, that's a really interesting question, because we have
Changes.
It does.
Yeah.
We have churches, and then we have sort of congregations. So we have churches maybe with multiple congregations, a couple of our churches. So I think we hover between like 60 and 68 or something churches. But then I think close to 80 when you start naming all the congregations. Now, for the most part, I deal with the churches and the lead pastors. But this year, after spending a year trying to get to know the pastors, this year I'll be branching out and trying to get to know campus pastors, staff, that kind of thing. So that'll be a part of the process.
Yeah. Cool.
Very cool.
And if, I guess listeners probably know, but, Columbus is our northwest border, straight south to Portsmouth, and then over pretty much to, I guess, Marietta and kind of I-70. That piece of the pie is our district.
And so culturally, there's very distinct areas of our district, from very metro area to very rural areas, and just about everything in between. And so it's a very unique. A lot of districts have uniques, but it's a pretty vast.
Yeah, I think we have. We've got urban and inner city. Then we've got sort of suburban. Then we do have the places where I grew up. My people come from, on my mom's side, come from Eastern Kentucky. My wife's from West Virginia. So when we get down to the southern part of our district, that feels like home to us. That's kind of the folks we've known all of our lives, and that's our family-ish. But then most of our ministry has been in suburban settings like this one. So, if I guess we trust that God knows what he's doing. And I feel like that's a good thing. We feel like we're home wherever we are, as long as we're on our district. And that's kind of nice. But it is very different in some ways. The pace in our churches to the south is often very rewarding to me. It's just a little less intense.
Okay.
You guys, I remember saying when I pastored this church, I feel like I'm on the loop of 270, which is right outside here.
Just going
as a
around,
pastor, just going and going and going, because it's very busy, and no one's busier, I don't think, than you, Pastor Rob, because not only were you doing what I was doing here, but you've added, Hocking Hills Retreat Center
Look at that.
and a bunch of other things. So, yeah, but it is a very unique place to be a DS. I enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, that's a great segue. So one of the big things coming up on the district is camp meeting. Not a whole lot of districts still do a full-blown camp meeting anymore, and it's going to be at Hocking Hills Retreat Center. So can we talk about camp meeting for a little bit?
Love to. Got anything you want to lead with, or I can jump in anytime?
Yeah, well, we've been talking about the development of the campground, and we're working hard to get that going. It's really hard when you're trying to manage contractors and workers and people that say they're going to do this and on this time or whatever. But it's coming along. We've got we're building 8 cabins. We've got the road in for 4 of them. And we're waiting right now on the concrete contractor to pour the footings for the first 4 cabins. We had it all set, and then just a couple of days before he was supposed to pour, he bailed for whatever. He had a reason, but we're looking for another one.
Not a good
We're
reason,
contacting.
but it was a reason.
So it was a reason. So we're looking for another. But as soon as we get that done, then it's all on us because we'll build the rest, and we just need a contractor to pour the concrete and do it right. And because that's obviously the foundation for the whole thing. So once we get that done, and hopefully it'll be done before camp meeting, we're working hard to do that so we can actually be building during camp meeting, during the day, not during the services, of course. But we're trying to get that going. So
Good call.
The whistle will blow. The lunch whistle will blow for them to go.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, it's exciting, man. Rob and I share, I think, a passion for that place.
Yeah.
Most people know, some people don't, but one of the top 2 or 3 vacation centers in our state is the Hocking Hills, and there we are right in the middle of it. So it's a wonderful place, and you guys, long before me, you have beautiful plans. We have beautiful plans, and I'm excited about what's happening. Camp meeting is one of the events that happens there. I think originally the idea was we're going to buy this camp because we have camp meeting, which is great. But then there's so much more that property can be utilized for.
Yeah.
But camp this year is going to be, I think, really, really fun. We've got great things going on throughout the week. Pastor Kevin Diatori is our camp meeting board chair. Young, creative, got a lot of great things. Cruise in, special emphases each night. Marriage enrichment kind of stuff. We're doing a pastor's training day right in the middle of all of that.
Yep.
I think I heard food trucks and inflatables and all kind of fun things.
You had me at food trucks.
Same. But that makes it fun to be there. It's a unique setting because as probably most of us know, we don't yet have all of the things we need to be self-contained there. So people have to make plans to come, but our hope is that people will be making those plans. We've got great music this year. Scott Kelly is as good as they come. In the Church of the Nazarene. He's done General Assembly multiple times and other great big denomination-wide events. So he'll do a terrific job. Billy Huddleston will preach some, and then we've got
love Billy.
Yeah, we've got some guest preachers sprinkled in there. Yeah. It's going to be a good time.
Cool.
I hope people will come.
Yeah, I think last year camp meeting just had a very different feel and atmosphere. It was good. Not that it was not good before, but I think it's going to be good. I think it's kind of building, maybe a little bit of a return. So
yeah, and our hope is that eventually that becomes a signature event for us, where not only is it great and fun and all that, but God has a chance to actually do real work in people's lives and then send them home energized, recommitted, whatever they need, ready to go. So all the things that we're doing sort of to support bringing a crowd is for that ultimate purpose, so that people can come to faith.
Cool.
For all of you young parents, July 16th is Child Dedication Sunday. This is a time to publicly declare your intention to raise your child in a way that will help them learn about Jesus early, directing their feet to church and their hearts to God's Word. This Wednesday, Alpha begins at 6:30. When you come to Alpha, you'll notice that first, there's food. This is a time to get to know each other in a casual setting. Next, you'll watch an Alpha Talk. These are designed to spark conversation about the big questions around life and faith. After the talk, it's time for a discussion. Alpha is for everyone, and new people are welcome each week. And you can get to know Pastor Joey, which is a real treat.
Before we end, because we could probably just keep talking, but you were privileged to be able to release a book this year. We'd love to talk about that and to maybe get it as a resource to some people and get them reading about discipleship. It's called A People of Grace, Becoming Disciples Together. You want to talk about that a little bit and kind of maybe the inspiration and maybe some of the key takeaways that you had when it comes to writing that and why you decided to do it?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'll try to keep it brief, but about the time I was pastoring here, it dawned on me that the church is really good at a lot of things. Mm-hmm. I mean really good at a lot of things. But the one thing that Jesus was so very clear about, we tend not to do so well at that. When Jesus said, go and make disciples. Mm-hmm. Now, there are things that we do that contribute to that, I'm sure, for sure. All of the worship services, all that kind of stuff contributes to the making of a disciple. But that part where we just sort of dig in and say, you know, what Jesus did with the 12, I want to see if I can do with some friends. That's been a thing where the church, my churches for sure, and all churches have struggled. Statistically, we can look in and outside of the Church of the Nazarene and see that.
Yeah.
So my heartbeat has, about the time I was here, began to be, what could we do to see that change? And it took me a long time and lots of smart people who talked to me and prayed with me and those kind of things. But anyway, I wound up having the opportunity to do some study from Wesley and understand again that what John Wesley did in 18th century England with what he called a class meeting is a model that still works, can work. And the missing link that Wesley understood and that we have unfortunately let slip through our fingers is very simple. Not fancy, not exciting, but very simple. And that is loving accountability. Our culture figured it out. You know, Celebrate Recovery, Alcoholics Anonymous, Weight Watchers, CrossFit, you name it. The culture has finally discovered, hey, if we really want to change this time, we're going to need to bring some people along on the journey. And that used to be the church. Jesus understood that. Giant travel through time to John Wesley understood that. Another giant travel through time to us. Our culture has rediscovered that. What if the church said, hey, you know what? That was some ground we used to have. Let us take that back. So I don't mean we need to take anything from the culture except a lesson that says, if I really want to be a disciple of Jesus, which means ultimately that I become a discipler, because that's who Jesus was, I'm probably going to need some people to make that journey with me. So the book is all about that. In fact, it's one of the only books you'll read that, and I tell people this when I get to talk about it, the appendix is every bit as important as the 130-some pages that goes before, because it's in the appendix that you begin the process of living out what you just learned. There's a head knowledge part, and then there's an experiential part. And that experiential part's where the change happens in real people's lives. So if anybody does get a hold of the book, please think about putting that into action, because that's where you begin to see the value of the concepts. And they aren't mine. They were Jesus's first. Wesley rediscovered them, and I just got the chance to point at them. So that's kind of the synopsis of the book. I think it's the Foundry, so the Nazarene publishing house, put it out, and I was very grateful for that. And one of the cool things they decided to do was sort of do all the publicity. So I didn't have to, get on Twitter and talk about my book or whatever.
They didn't put you on a book tour?
No, they just did it all.
This is stop one.
This is stop one, yeah.
That's right. I didn't see a stack of them for me to sign, but I'm sure they're here somewhere.
Yes. We ordered them. They just haven't got here yet.
Like the concrete guy, right? Yeah. No, thanks for letting me talk about it a little bit.
No,
but
of
I do
course.
believe in the concept.
Yeah.
So whether you like the book or not, doesn't matter. But the concept is real. Loving accountability is where change happens.
So when you, one of the things we had Karen read the book and was talking to us about it, and I want to read it. I haven't read it yet. But she mentioned one of the things that you talk about, and maybe this was Wesley, about how the accountability is structured in your recommendation. Do you have a little?
Yeah. Wesley kept it simple. So this is cool. Think about this in 18th century England. So he said, when you come together, you meet for 1 hour, no longer. Don't sing, don't eat food. That's not what this is about. That'll kill it. Come together for 1 hour. You've written this covenant together. Work through that covenant. Vulnerability, starting with the leader and then with every person. At the close of that time, you pray together, and then you're done. And he insisted on that on a weekly basis. He said, if you make it longer than that, you'll kill it. But this 1 hour of watching, he called it, his phrase, quote, was watching over one another in love. And so that's the way it worked. He would, now in 18th century England, they broke it down sort of geographically and things because people didn't have the kind of transportation we had.
Sure.
You could do it any number of ways in a local church setting. But the key is to keep it really lean and focused. We had a chance to do a couple cohorts of this before I left Central Church. I didn't get to fully develop them like I had hoped. So my hope is, and I challenged some people at a workshop I did at General Assembly to say, hey, you do this, and then tell me how it went. But it's pretty basic.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that his was so streamlined and simple, and we've taken that and made it bigger, and you got to have food, and you got to have a song or whatever, and then you end up missing the value of what you really gathered for.
Yeah, and you know, there's great reasons to do that, food and all that. There's settings where that's really, really good. But in this particular area, and it's not my idea, like it's proven with those folks who came out of coal mines and everything else, that it works. People saw change. In fact, really quick, what happened in the French Revolution, which was a terrible time in the world with all kinds of revolution and bloodshed and all of that. Historians are now equating what Wesley was able to do in England without bloodshed, just a simple pastor and his people. They're equating those two things, that the level of change that happened in England parallels what happened in France without the bloodshed. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of thing that when we hear ourselves saying, I long for revival, our church needs unity, this is where you can find that. It's in that holy life that Jesus promises. So that's the idea, is that we would get after that.
That's what George Whitefield would say on, when he was near death, that he was saddened because as he looked back through his life, all the people that he had touched and all the people who'd come to faith, he called like they were like grains of sand that just kind of floated away. But because of what Wesley did and the method that he employed, wasn't necessarily his sermons or his preaching ability. It was that loving accountability that he employed throughout that process that began Methodism, and made it one of the strongest movements of God. That George Whitefield looked back and regret that he didn't do some of the same things.
Yeah, we got very excited about Wesley's theology.
Oh yeah,
my book really emphasizes his methodology, which is, I think, equally important in his ministry. And we could recover that, I think, and do well. So
cool. Yeah.
Well, Sam, thanks for coming in today, making the drive over here, and we're glad to have you. Excited to have you on our district and to see what the future's going to hold for district ministry, but also for our local churches. So we're going to keep praying for you.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say? I mean, these are, before we go.
Just an honor to be a part of this district, and especially to be invited back to be a part of this office and this church, and with my friend Rob and my new friend Joey. So it's good to be a part of this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming, taking the time.
My pleasure.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up our episode today. My thanks to the Reverend Dr. Sam Barber for coming in and for sharing with us. And you can pick up his book. We're going to put a link in the show notes. Go ahead and read that and let us know what you think. Pastor Rob was here. We're thankful for him too. You can find out more about what's happening here at Shepherd through our website, social media, and of course on the app. And you can get a hold of us at podcast@shepnaz.org. Let us know how we're doing, any questions you might have for Pastor Sam and Pastor Rob. I'm Joey. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.
This podcast is a production of the Shepherd Church of the Nazarene, Gahanna, Ohio. Email to podcast@shepnaz.org and let us know what you think.